Mr. Gibson, what would you like me to know?
Well, the defendant, she's saying that she wants to withdraw her plea. She's telling me that she thinks in Indiana, you can have a concealed carry and you don't have to have a permit. I guess she's somehow thinking that that should apply to her in Michigan. So I don't quite understand what her thinking is on that.
Miss Marshbank, where do you live? Do you live in Indiana now?
Yeah, I live in Shipshewana.
All right. And do you wish to withdraw your plea?
I mean, well, so I was reading, and it says that in Indiana residents are legally allowed to conceal carry without a license. But I didn't know about this until this morning when I was reading.
You can file a motion if you wish. I don't think that her understanding of the law is currently what the status is, but even if it is, I don't think she was an Indiana resident. And I didn't know if that was a sovereign citizen thing. All right, we're ready to address the matter of Courtney Marie Marshbank. File number is 241478FY. She's here about 40 minutes late for her sentence, but she is here. This was a charge of carrying a concealed weapon, which is a felony punishable by up to 5 years imprisonment, reduced to a misdemeanor of improper possession of a firearm in a non-game area. The court set this matter for sentence today, trying to figure out things and get some more information. Defendant has lots of unpaid tickets. And I was hopeful that she would pay something, but apparently, according to the staff, there hasn't been anything paid. All right, Mr. Gibson, what would you like me to know?
Well, the defendant indicated that she's saying that she wants to withdraw her plea, which I'm not quite. She's telling me that she thinks because of the fact that in Indiana you can have a concealed carry and you don't have to have a permit. I guess she's somehow thinking that that should apply to her in Michigan. I don't believe that that would be the case. So I mean, I don't quite understand what her thinking is on that, but you know, as far as I can see, she will not be convicted of a felony by accepting this plea. So it should not affect her right to to own a firearm in Michigan. She should be allowed to maintain her firearm rights. From what I could see, there is a long list of, if you get convicted of a misdemeanor within 8 years, that could affect your ability to apply for a CCW permit for 8 years in Michigan. But from what I could see, what she was convicted of in this case would not be on the list of crimes to not have within an 8-year period. So, but I would ask the court, if I would ask the court to sentence the defendant to fines and costs here. I think we have a situation where she had a firearm and she says that she didn't know where she could store it in the car because the car didn't have a trunk. So I think we have, from what I can see here, my understanding would be that the defendant, she was not aware of the firearm laws. And so she ended up violating our firearm laws. But I think it was more or less, I don't believe she had a criminal intent. I just think she was not familiar with the firearm laws, and so she violated the firearm law, which if she would have had knowledge, she hopefully could have made accommodations to have the vehicle in her car and safely and legally transport it. So I think she's going to learn from this, and I think she's going to make herself aware of the firearm laws going forward. She indicates to me that she'd like to hopefully have a CCW in the future. And so I would ask the court, as I said, to sentence her to fines and costs. Thank you.
Miss Marshbank, where do you live? Do you live in Indiana now?
Yeah, I live in Shipshewana.
All right, at the 675 West address?
Yes.
All right, and do you wish to withdraw your plea?
I mean, well, so I was reading, and it says that in Indiana residents over the age of 18 with no felonies are legally allowed to conceal carry without a license in the state of Indiana. And Michigan's concealed carry laws say that they honor Indiana's laws when an Indiana resident is over here in Michigan. So, but I didn't know about this until this morning when I was reading. So, I mean, if that's, correct, which I mean, I believe it is, then that would technically mean that I didn't commit any crime because I am a resident of Indiana over 18 with no felonies, and it was my gun, and that should be not, I didn't do anything illegal in that case. And I did bring money today to pay my fines. I was waiting on my card, and that's why I was late. I had to fix my battery so that my truck would start. So I am very sorry about that. I think it would not start at all.
She indicated she could pay, she believes, $50 to $75 today, right?
Yeah, I have $100 on my card right now, but I do need gas to get back. So I didn't put in a lot to get here because I was in a hurry and I was already late. So I was trying to just put in enough to get me here.
You have a history of just blowing stuff off. I looked at your driving record. You had 12 FAC or FCJ suspensions.
What's that?
Failed to comply with judgment and failed to answer citation.
I don't know what that means. I've never got anything in the.
They were all erased. Kalamazoo County, Allegan County, St. Joseph County. You had 12, 6 of each. Failed to comply with judgment means you got a ticket and you didn't pay it. FAC means you got a ticket and didn't answer it.
What?
Yes. Well, they used to suspend your license for that, but they don't anymore. I don't agree with that. I think they ought to suspend your license if you don't pay your tickets.
I know I have fines in Allegan related to tickets that I have a payment plan on. I didn't know anything about Kalamazoo.
Well, and then you have all these cases here, and you keep driving around with no license plate, which I don't understand.
I can't get ahead.
You have 4 charges of 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Plus this is 5. You're driving around with it without a license plate, not even an expired plate. And I didn't know if that was a sovereign citizen thing. They didn't believe you needed a plate. They just keep driving around with no plate. Then you get the ticket and you don't pay it.
No, this was the only one where I didn't have a license plate. All the rest of them, they were expired.
All right. Well, this one is just no plate. And so, but you haven't paid the other ones. 2209111, 22911A, 23433, 23569, 23698, 23690, 23091. You got a speeding ticket in March of 24. You didn't pay that either. Then you had this case. Your landlord moved to evict you. You didn't show up for court. You got defaulted and the sheriff had to come put you and your dogs and cat out on the street. You just ignore stuff. And, but you haven't paid any of the fines here going back to 2022 and including a speeding ticket that you got in March. Then I delay the matter to allow you to pay something and you haven't paid a cent. Then you show up late. And you have some idea that somehow you have some defense. The prosecutor is not here. The law says I'm supposed to grant a motion to withdraw a plea with great liberality if given before sentence. So I'm going to give you what you asked for, and the prosecutor is going to recharge you with a felony and convict you of it probably. But I'm going to allow the defendant to withdraw a plea.
But like, have you heard of the Indiana thing? I mean, if that's not the case, then then I'll just take the plea.
I don't believe it is the case. Something you read on the internet doesn't amount to a legal defense to a carrying concealed weapon. You're in Michigan, you got a gun, it's in your car. Else you're driving around with no license plate, which is like saying, please pull me over. Any officer that sees you driving with no plate is gonna pull you over. You weren't really doing anything else. And to your credit, the gun was not loaded.
I was homeless at the time, so I had to had to go.
Yes.
I've been homeless ever since I got kicked out of that apartment that I missed the court for.
Well, they kicked you out because you hadn't paid your rent.
No, yeah, I did.
Well, let's
Yeah, I
see.
paid my rent and I should, the lease was for, was in somebody else, no, that's what I showed up for.
Well, let's see what happened. If you have a defense, you have to show up to make it. And so when you don't show up, you automatically lose. So let's see what the deal is. Who lives in the Shipshawana address?
Pamela Danoon.
And who is she related to you?
No, she's, old friend's mom. The friend's not around, but she's,
So did you just sort of use that as an address?
no, that's where I'm staying right now. I just started staying there like that. I was on my way there. When I got pulled over with the gun in my car.
Where is the gun? It was registered in your name. Where is it registered?
Kalamazoo, I think, or that's where I was living when I bought it.
All right, well, then your Indiana defense is even worse. The gun's registered you in Michigan.
Good point.
All right, let's take a look.
I mean, I see something about a reciprocity where it says that Michigan has reciprocity agreements, but I don't,
What is reciprocity?
Means we respect the law of another state. Let's see here. Your rent was $2,245 a week. They alleged that it was $2,325 behind. At the time I entered the judgment through April 7th, you owed $4,285 in unpaid rent for a total of $4,469. But again, you never showed up. So,
That was the White Pigeon address?
yes.
Yeah, I think that day I didn't wake up for court or something, or I forgot, or I thought it was the day after or something. I don't remember which one it was. All right, well,
well,
it was a mistake. I
then-
didn't purposely not come though. That was an accident.
Well,
I
when you
know
don't
myself.
come, you automatically lose. And I gave you until April 6th to vacate. And you didn't move. So on April 13th, Sergeant Morse came and put you and your 12 cats and 1 dog out,
And my son.
and your son. So that's always very unpleasant.
It's been a rough year.
And what you said at the time of your arrest in July is that you were staying at some quote unquote sketchy motel and you needed the gun for protection, which would still seem to mean at that time you were a Michigan resident. But I don't think that defense is going to go very far. You bought the gun here. The gun was registered here. You possessed it here. And on the day of the arrest, you told the officers that you lived here. So even if there is reciprocity, which I don't believe in this context applies, if you had a CCW permit from Indiana, it would be valid here in Michigan. That would essentially mean all anybody needs to do is register a gun in Indiana and then you can take it everywhere. Try doing that in New York City and see what they do with the New York firearm laws. But Mr. Gibson, if you believe there's some sort of a defense there, the prosecutor isn't here to argue about it. So I'll give you a couple of options. I'll let you withdraw your plea and set the matter for a pre-exam conference. I'll adjourn it to allow your lawyer to file some motion to dismiss under this reciprocity theory, or we can proceed with sentencing this morning. But I'm not very impressed. You have enough money to buy a gun. You don't have enough money to pay your tickets.
I bought the gun when we had the COVID money. I wasn't homeless at the time. I just had a really nice house in Kalamazoo before I got kicked out because of the violent relationship.
So I don't know if the court would be inclined to adjourn the sentencing to give me time to confirm that this would not be a defense. But from what I can see, there was, for states that had similar laws to Michigan, where you had to take a gun safety course, where you had to sign up to get the CCW. My understanding is that Michigan grants reciprocity to states that do that. And I think that Indiana at one point did do that. But now apparently Indiana allows anyone to conceal carry without having to have any kind of permit. So I don't know if that means that Michigan would give reciprocity to a state that doesn't have that.
I'll allow you an adjournment, but Miss Marshbank.
Does that mean that I'm getting charged with a felony again?
No, we haven't withdrawn your plea yet. That might be what you deserve. You have a Michigan driver's license. You were living in Michigan at the time this happened. You purchased the gun in Michigan. You registered the gun in Michigan. You're couch surfing with somebody in Indiana, and you contend that somehow that gives you the right to carry a gun in Michigan. I don't believe it does. I was looking at the stuff that I was talking about. You have 8 unpaid tickets here in St. Joseph County. As indicated, those used to result in suspensions. Looking at your driving record, which is on an older ticket when you were still living on Chicago Road, there's unpaid tickets in Kalamazoo and Allegan County. And when the law changed on December 4th of 2020, they cleared a bunch of unpaid tickets, 12. So your license is currently valid. The reason I bring all this up is because if I give you a fine, I don't have any faith that you're going to pay it, which is why I continued this to see if you'd make any effort to pay it.
I
ought to just give you 93 days in jail and wipe out all of your fines. So the problem, all of this comes from lack of money. I call driving without a plate, driving without valid insurance, driving while poor. That's not a derisive term. People just don't have any money and they're driving anyway because they have to get what they need where they need to go. But you're actually sticking in their eye and driving down the road with no plate on at all. And in addition to the no plate charges you have here in St. Joe County, you have a couple in another county, Kalamazoo, where you never paid the ticket, and Allegan, where you never paid the ticket. And I guess at one point, way back in 2017, you had some sort of repayment plan in Allegan. But literally 12 things, 12 unpaid tickets, they're still owed, but they don't suspend your license from it. And they all got lifted on December 4th of 2020 because the law changed.
So the way the law is now, if you don't pay your tickets, they can't suspend your license?
Correct.
But income taxes is in like a couple months, and my fines here are only like, how many tickets here are only like $1,000 and something. So I mean, I will easily pay that all in full as soon as I get my tickets.
Well, the only reason you would is because I'm cracking the whip.
No, because it's kind of cheap. I mean, compared to like my other fines and tickets and stuff, like I thought it would have been way more for as many tickets as I've gotten out here so far, and it's not.
All right.
Well, Your Honor,
I'd rather just be cleared and done and be over with and not be in any trouble.
Would the court consider potentially adjourning the sentence approximately 30 days with the idea that is there a certain amount of money that the court would say that the defendant needs to pay a certain amount of money?
No, I just wanted her to pay some.
I'm paying today for sure.
And so she shows up today late. All of a sudden, she's gonna make a payment. So it all just shows bad faith.
But I mean, am I, one payment of say $50 to $75 is probably not enough to make a difference. So I guess.
Well, I don't want to punish her because she's poor. She isn't in a good financial situation right now, but there's a long history of this, including the most recent ticket and then the speeding ticket she got in March. She just blew it off like every other ticket she ever got in the last 5 years. And so eventually the birds come home to roost, and I'm not going to give you a fine that you're not going to pay. And so the other option is to do a jail sentence. This is a felony reduced to a misdemeanor. I don't think your defense, even if your theory is correct, that if you're an Indiana resident, they have reciprocity. I don't believe you're an Indiana resident on July 18th. And according to the Michigan Department of Motor Vehicles, you live in Michigan. You have a Michigan driver's license. And by the way, they send everything to the address on your driver's license, which would go to the Chicago Road address where you got evicted from, which was also blowing off paying your rent, blowing off appearing to court, waiting till the very last minute where the sheriff had to come forcibly put you out. You have a history of not addressing your problems. And so I'm not sure exactly all that's going on here. I'm still trying to figure it out. But I'll agree to adjourn the matter 30 days. Does your car have a plate on it now? How did you drive it here? How'd you get here?
I got a ride, but they gotta come back and get me.
Well, you said your car wouldn't start, so you were prepared to drive your car here with no insurance and no plate.
I mean, I couldn't just miss court.
I understand.
I mean,
Let's
I don't
make
know
sure
what to
she
do.
didn't
Like,
drive here.
I don't know. I've been homeless this whole time with my son and stuff. Like, it's been really hard to, and then my car got stolen, so I couldn't even get a job if I wanted to because I had no car at all. And then I just bought the truck 3 days before I got pulled over. That's why I had no license plate on it. I've never drove without a license plate in my life. That is like literally begging to get pulled over, especially when you don't have insurance either. It's kind of just like begging for a bunch of tickets or possibly get my car impounded.
And you're still gonna just keep driving with no insurance.
No,
I mean, well,
if
if you drove here, we're gonna have a little discussion. So did somebody drop you off or did you drive here? You drove here.
I didn't want to miss court. I mean, I can't go to jail. I have nobody to watch my kid.
Yes, if you did 93 days, you'd be out by Christmas. You got a giant gift from the prosecutor reducing this from a felony to a misdemeanor.
So I'll just take the plea.
Instead of treating it like a giant gift, you're treating it like an old shoe. And you're, like I said, nothing bad has happened. Your technique of ignoring everything has so far been successful, except for the part where you got evicted. Because nothing's happened. You haven't paid a dozen or more tickets. You continue to drive with no insurance and no valid plate. And I'm going to give you a fine that you aren't going to pay.
I'm going to pay it, I swear.
So I think there's jail in your future, but I will agree to adjourn this matter for 30 days to allow you to file this motion if you wish to, or make some provisions for what happens to you on the day of sentence. Because they gave you months to either pay the rent or move, and you didn't pay the rent and you didn't move. And then they gave you an additional 25 days to move out before they did the eviction. And Yeah, at some point there's a consequence, but let's reset this. December 2. You can file a motion if you wish. Mr. Gibson, I don't think that her understanding of the law is currently what the status is, but even if it is, I don't think she was an Indiana resident at the time of this incident, which makes it all irrelevant. I guess I'm just kicking the can down the road because I don't know what to do. But at some point, all the cows come home. So I'll see you on December 2nd at 10:30. Don't be late. And we'll address it at that time. All right, you're good to go.
Thank you.
All right, now let's address Courtney Marshbank. This is file number 241478FY, People versus Courtney Marie Marshbank. Miss Marshbank got stopped by a state trooper in White Pigeon Township in July of 2024 with a pistol that was registered, but she didn't have a carrying permit. So she was charged with a felony offense of carrying a concealed weapon. The prosecutor reduced that to a charge of possession of firearms in a non-game area. Defendant's contention was that she somehow was an Indiana resident, and as an Indiana resident did not require a permit to carry. There are a couple of issues. One, I don't know that she was an Indiana resident. And two, I don't know that that makes a difference. She had discussed potentially withdrawing her plea, and I set the matter out for this morning. And Mr. Gibson was going to review the law, and the defendant was going to decide how she wanted to proceed. Mr. Gibson, what's our status here this morning?
Well, I've explained that to the defendant that from what my research uncovered here was that Indiana, at some point in time, Indiana apparently went permitless for their carry law, but they do have something that is a Indiana handgun license that you can sign up for. And it's my understanding that if someone signs up for the Indiana handgun license, that when they're in Michigan, that there is a law about reciprocity for Michigan. That's apparently it's related to a federal law, 18 United States Code 922G. But it's my understanding that if you have a permit in Indiana, that then you can argue that under Michigan law, in a sense, that the reciprocity would grant you the concealed carry in Michigan.
Well, so, her problem here, you don't need a CCW permit to carry a gun in Michigan. If the gun is licensed, you can wear it on your hip, walk down the street. Where you get sideways is when you conceal it or you get into a car with it. So you don't need a CCW permit to carry a gun in Michigan either. However, you need such a permit to carry it in a car. And I believe that's also the law in Indiana. But at any rate, as I indicated, I had a question of whether you actually were an Indiana resident at this time. And two, what the law was. So she did not have an Indiana handgun permit. So you don't believe she was entitled to reciprocity?
Right. It's my understanding that if she had that Indiana handgun permit, then she should be given reciprocity, but that without that permit, in a sense, she didn't have anything. So even if she was an Indiana resident, she would just be like any other Indiana citizen. And so if we interpreted it that any Indiana residents would be afforded this law, then in a sense, you would be giving Indiana residents in the state of Michigan I guess you could say, enhanced rights over
Well,
Michigan.
yeah, they'd have
residents.
more authority than all you do is live in LaGrange and drive around up here with your gun in your car. I don't think that's the current state of the law. Miss Marshbank, what do you want to do here? You discuss perhaps withdrawing your plea or leaving it in place, in which case I would go forward with the sentence. What would you like to do this morning?
What, if I took the plea, what would I be, like, what would I be getting?
Oh, about 1,000 days in jail. I don't know. I'm not gonna bargain with you. What upsets me about this case, couple things. This was the 4th time in 2 years you were driving around with no valid plate on your car. And you haven't paid the other fines.
I did just go get my truck legal.
All right. You also lied to me the day we were here last time about whether you drove here and whether your vehicle was legal. So you have this IDGAF attitude about driving around with no plate and no insurance. So, and they had this gun, which maybe you weren't in the best of circumstances, and so you thought you needed a gun. But you didn't have that properly licensed either. So the other things actually were more concern to me than this was. If you want to withdraw your plea, that's okay with me. They'll take this to circuit court and turn it into a felony charge. And I don't know what the guidelines would be for this. They cut you a break. They didn't charge you with any of the other license charges. And then you poke me in the eye by driving here illegally again on October 28th. So I don't know what I'm gonna do because I haven't heard from you yet. But if you want to withdraw your plea and have the matter set for a preliminary examination, we can do that. If you want to leave your plea in place and have me do the sentence today, we can do that. And I'm joking, there is no 1,000 days. This is a 93-day misdemeanor. So whatever your preference is okay with me.
Well, I am like, I would agree to the plea if I'm not getting jail time, but
I'm not gonna do that. That's not how it works. If you want to make sure you get jail time, why don't you have this matter bound over to circuit court and get a felony CCW charge? If you'd rather have a misdemeanor of a minor infraction. As I said, I wasn't very happy with the fact that you lied to me last week. The last time I saw you.
Like, I just couldn't just not come, and I don't have nobody to just like drive me anywhere. That's.
And
the
so you
issue.
just keep driving with no plate and no
No,
insurance.
I have, my truck is legal. I got insurance. I got the title in the mail. Somebody actually just stole it when it came in the mailbox, but I got another one on the way. And working on the plate right now, but it's because I guess my title was a salvage title or something, so I had to go get it inspected by a mechanic and have a cop sign it and everything, and I got to take that back and go get the license plate. But I did not drive here today.
I see that.
I did find a ride, and I paid on my tickets on the way here, and I sold my motorcycle, and I'm getting paid the rest of the money for that today at noon. They couldn't make it here any sooner than noon. But I have to give them the title to that today. So they're going to give me $1,000. I'm going to pay all of my tickets off all at once today at 12 o'clock when they get, I don't know if they're meeting me here or back at the house, but I'm paying them all off. So I don't have to worry about it anymore.
All right.
And I'm not driving the truck. Like.
All right. Well, that's all encouraging. Where are you living?
I'm still at the same place right now, but there's.
At the Shipshawana place?
Yeah, I'm currently working on getting out of there at the moment.
Back to Michigan or still in Indiana?
I don't know yet. It depends, probably. I don't know. Let's see. Probably Michigan.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll ask the same question. Do you want me to leave your plea in place or do you wish to set it aside? Mr. Gibson, how do we proceed here?
Well, it sounds like the defendant is not, she's indicating to me that she's a a single mother, and apparently, she has no, if this court was to order for her to spend, say, just one day in jail, she's saying she has no arrangements made for her child. So
Miss Marshbank, even if I was gonna put you in jail, I'm not gonna do it right now. So, but I'm not gonna have this stare down where you corner me into not ordering a jail sentence. What I intend to do is give you a fine, and I'm gonna give you a short window to pay it. You either put up or shut up. And so if you pay it, that'll be it. If you don't, then you can go to jail. But your license is Michigan. You're a Michigan licensed driver. So the whole Indiana resident thing was just a fallacy. A, it wasn't a defense, and B, you didn't live in Indiana anyway. And so if you actually live in Indiana, you have to get an Indiana license. So having said that, what do you wish to do?
I'll take the plea. And I'll get my fines paid. Well, these fines that I already owe anyways, today, all of them will be paid at 12 o'clock.
All right.
And I did just get my job back. It's in White Pigeon the other day. So I start there Thursday.
Where's that?
At Speedway.
Okay. Mr. Marvin, we've had a lot of these. And his policy during the last year or two has been to offer this misdemeanor for first-time offenders like you. It does require forfeiture of the firearm. I'm not exactly sure how much you owe because you had paid some. August 1st of 22, improper use of plates, no proof of insurance, unpaid.
The total this morning when I checked it and paid on my way here was $1,100, and I just put 90 on it. That I tried to do 100, but I paid over the phone because my data's not working, and it charged me a fee.
$10 fee.
Yeah, a $5 fee, and then my card charged me $5. So that's how. So it should be $1,000, and I'm getting $1,000 today for the remainder of my motorcycle when I have to give them my title.
All right, there's a $100 fine, $75 crime victims' rights fee, $50 state minimum fee, and $150 attorney fee. That's $375. I give you until December 31 to pay this, or 1,000 days in jail. 10 days in jail. I know that you're doing the best you can to make your way in the world. But what I get frustrated about is you just keep digging the hole deeper. Some of these, it wasn't even that you didn't have a proper plate, you didn't have a plate at all. You're driving around a car with no license plate in White Pigeon, where the troopers all are. And so they'll pull you over anytime they see someone driving with no plate, and then you don't pay the fine. So the consequence isn't that bad. So it hasn't been painful enough for you to stop doing it. But I'll take you at your word. Now you have a driver that brought you here today. And there's some funky story about a salvage vehicle and a stolen title. But don't drive it again until you get everything titled. Then you also have to have insurance.
I do. I have the general.
All right. I want you to go ahead and pay the rest of that stuff off today or tomorrow when your check clears. And you got till the end of the year to pay this one. All right. All right. You're good to go.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Gibson.
Thank you.